It's the OG alongside Joe Giglio. I'm Joe Ovies. We're at ACC kickoff in Charlotte. It is Coastal Day, which is why we've got these 40s of high life. We were pouring it out for the Coastal. It's the last year of the division, Joe.
Can we get 4-4 to send this thing out
It's
properly?
the only way to do it.
Right?
It's the only way to do it.
I would love it.
Here's what's okay. You put out your predictions today on WRAL Sports Fan. You picked State, which we'll get back to in a second.
Okay.
The Coastal, admittedly, and why we love it so much and why we're pouring one out for them, is because it provides the chaos. It really is. I mean, all 7 teams in the Coastal Division have won the division. One team, one coach will be added to the Legends Club of Coastal Champions, okay?
And what a club it is.
People want to go Miami, but I might be convinced otherwise that maybe North Carolina can be the last Coastal Division winner because Mac Brown, head coach at North Carolina, said today that they were criminally, when somebody had asked him if they were criminally underrated this year, he goes, yes, especially considering that we were criminally overrated last year. It's always our fault. It is a talking point that nobody's really talking about Carolina going into the year. We don't know much about this team. We don't know what the quarterback situation is going to be. But they should be solid, right?
I think North Carolina will be better than they were last year. They were 3-5 in the league. There was no reason for them to be 3-5 in the league last year. None. I think defensively, Gene Chizik, we've seen this before.
We have.
He comes in, he structurally gets them in the right place. Mm-hmm. They have talented players, and this is you're starting to see those classes. All of the recruiting strength for Mac Brown has been on the defensive side.
Yes.
So you're going to see a much improved Carolina defense, one that can win them games, not just hold down the fort while Sam Howell goes crazy. I think offensively, I think he'll use both quarterbacks. I think Josh Downs will be outstanding, and British Brooks, what we saw in that state game,
yes,
he could be a dangerous runner for them. I like what the pieces are set up for them, but the question is, is it going to be much more than we've ever seen from them? 8-4, 9-3.
Oh, that
feels good to me, though.
That feels good to me, especially after it happened last year. And you also got young QBs like Drake May coming up that can build you to that next opportunity. I'm glad you brought up British Brooks because that's the thing that Carolina was truly lacking last year.
Yes.
And the reason why last year I was a little hesitant to get on board with the Carolina hype train, if you will, because
I was all in. You weren't.
I was not, and the reason why was because of that factor of replacing skill position players, and we saw that come home to roost at a variety of positions.
Yep.
Underrated in all that was the running back position because Sam Howell was doing so much of it. He was their best running back until late, and that's the question that I have. You bring up that talent for North Carolina, but are you using the right talent when it's time? Why, there's some questions as to why British Brooks.
Sure.
It took a while for him to finally come on in that game against NC State, but now they have that established. That's good. But what about somebody else? What about the quarterback position? Is the 2-quarterback system the right way to go? I'm never a fan of it. I don't like a change of pace QB.
Mac has always been, though.
I know.
For the most part.
I know.
At Carolina his first time, and then at Texas. So I think Mac's going to rely on what works for him and what has worked for him, and that is something that he's had success with.
Yes. Are they criminally underrated, though, this year? Nah, they'll be fine. I think they just kind of learned their lessons from last year, and they're going to keep, what is it, real G's move in silence? Is that what the kids used to say back in the day? I think that's what's going on.
There is such a thing as getting drunk on your own press.
Yes.
And believing your own press when you haven't earned it. And when you didn't have the same skill players back. And there's a validity to that argument.
Which gets to NC State, which, in my opinion, has earned this kind of build-up to what we're seeing at ACC kickoff this year. And going into the weekend, we'll get the predicted order of finish from the media. I know in the grand scheme of things, it's not big of a deal. But for State, they don't get this opportunity very often. They're not picked to win the ACC very often. It's only happened once.
Just once.
Right.
This event started in 1976.
Yes. Now, we talk about underrated. It is entirely possible that we've underrated Clemson so much.
Yes.
And maybe this week, and hearing from Dabo and kind of resetting what was an underwhelming season for the Tigers last year, we'll have an honest, sober conversation about what this Clemson Tigers team can be. And NC State going to Death Valley factors into, I know you make a point about it being a favorable schedule.
Yeah.
I don't like going to Death Valley, I can tell you that.
I know. It's a great schedule, though, for NC State. I think their head will be on a swivel for Clemson. Yeah. They beat them last year. I don't think Clemson on offense is what they've been. NC State fans know this. When you have Phillip Rivers, when you have Russell Wilson, you know what good quarterbacks look like.
Yeah.
NC State fans are like the old Supreme Court judge who said, you know porn when you see it. NC State fans know good quarterbacks when they see it. But you know who else does?
Yeah.
Clemson. They had Deshaun Watson. Taj Boyd, by the way, was outstanding as well. But they had Taj Boyd, Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence. Then you get last year to DJ Uiagalelei, who had 9 touchdowns and 10 interceptions.
Yeah.
I looked it up this morning. They were ranked 102nd in the country in passing yards per game, right next to Rutgers, Kansas, and Vanderbilt. That ain't going to get it done.
Yeah. You went with that reference. I thought you were going to go with a Brownlow. Shout out to Lauren Brownlow. UNC fans know point guards.
They do.
And that's why UNC point guards get a little bit more heat
Sure.
than other positions.
There is a standard.
Because there's a standard.
There
when it
is
comes
a
to that.
standard.
The same thing goes for NC State. Talking season's over. I had a lot of fun here at ACC
Are you
Kickoff.
sure it's over?
We still have a month left to go. But here.
Hey, this is where my preseason games against 1AA teams would come in really handy. You can steal that one too, ACC.
Charlotte talking season is over. To the Coastal, RIP. You were a real one. Don't disappoint this year.